Okay, thank you. Well, what I would like to talk about you is it's about different possibilities how to explain the rules through what exactly situation it is, like on events or friends or something like that, because it's a completely different way how to do it. So, first, let's say about few things about the rules that you need to always explain, because sometimes it's problematic that lots of people, when they are explaining rules, starting in the middle of the thing. You know, like I saw it many times that they're starting to explain just the different actions, different mechanics, and then at the end you will figure out what's the game about. So first, always remember, please, to start with the theme of the game and also with the achievement or something like the goal of the game for the players. You know, it's really important to know about this because otherwise they will be completely confused. It is also important there, even in rule books, anywhere, to explain first the basic structure of the game, like the round structure, what is different, you know, what will you do during the round, and then the simple actions are one after another. It's something that can be, you know, really easily going through differently. And I saw a lot of rulebook that basically start with those actions and do not know exactly where to use them. Okay. The always important thing, even with rule books, even with explanation, is how to make people pay attention. For example, in CG, we used most of the time with some, you can see it on our older rule books, we used some funny things. If you, for example, read Dungeon Lord rulebook or Galaxy Tracker, always to keep attention to them, to people, to a little bit like get them away, a small way from the rules. So they always, you know, look forward to read another paragraph, another thing. The other thing, of course, with this is how it's structured. Basically, if it's like you saw it before, with the presentation wall of text, nobody will take it, nobody will read it. They will be completely overwhelmed and not able to, for example, understand what's going on. It will be hard to find and everything. Always like make a space between those explanations. You know, it's when I think about the rulebook, it's always also during the explanation on Alive. You know, when you are explaining, if you will just continue straight talking and talking, they will sooner or later they will, you know, stop listening, or it will be too much information at one time. It needs to have the pauses. It needs to be something like to get them back to attention, like a little bit small joke or more of the thematic of the game, to put them inside the game again. Especially you can see it easily when somebody looking at their phone when you are explaining the rules, that they will not, you know, it's not fun for them or it's not interesting enough to listen. So just small rules like that. It's always problematic also that if you are explaining the rules, even a live, as I said, rulebook or a different way, to connect to it together. Even getting back a little bit about what you already explained, why it's connected. You know, if you, if you say only a few things about each thing, it will be confusing why I'm doing it. You know, why I'm, for example, flying to Mercury in some space game or something like that. It's always, okay, I can do it to get something back and so on and so on. Just to make sure, you know, that they will get to inside the game itself. And of course, yeah, at the end, if you're explaining normally the game, it's always useful to tell the people again, at the end, the structure of the game. They will, you know, listen to it in the beginning, listen to the basic rules, you know, basic action, everything, and then you remind them what exactly is happening again. Because otherwise they, you know, especially in the longer games, more complicated games, they will lose attention through it and forget few of those rules and everything like that. It's basically what help sheets in games are for. And you can easily put that even to the explanation when you are explaining the game to get it, people. Okay, those are just, you know, small few basics that to remind yourself about it. But the thing, of course, is what I wanted to talk about most is how much different the explanation is if you are explaining on different occasions. For example, the first one that I wrote there is the rulebook. I don't think so that I need to talk about it that much because it was already said before today, and hopefully most of you were there. If not, yeah, I think it will be online, right?
Yes.
Okay. What I wanted to talk about also is rule summary. The basic of the thing is that normally you have rulebook that need to be something like easy to explain the rules, easy to show exactly what's the game about, for the first time to learn the game. But also the rulebook most of the times need to be easy to find exactly if you don't remember some rules, some small detail, or do not know, for example, who is winning if the player has the tied score or something like that. Basically, the rule summary at the end of the game, rulebook, is good idea about it, but also some games comes to summary guidelines or something like that, like small books. You already see that, right? For example, it was Stationfall or Arkham Horror has the rule summary. You will completely differently explain those rules there than in the rulebook that you need to explain step by step. There you should need to explain only by, points. And think about it, why I'm talking about those 2 points also, because it's easy to forget what you are talking about or something like that, to understand those. And also it's really, the rules reference sheet can be really helpful during the development also, because it will be, easiest way how to prepare yourself rules for the first time. It was just points. What exactly you are doing, what are our possibilities, what the actions and the codenames do in the game and so on. Then to write the whole rulebook, of course. Just, that idea. Okay, one thing, of course, that I want to talk about also, about the different explanation with when you're playing with friends and strangers. Of course, this explanation of the, with friends, it's so easy because you know them, you know what their attention span are. It's the easiest way how to explain it. And sometimes, you know that you cannot explain the bigger games to them. But to strangers is the most, difficult thing that you can do. In the rulebook, you have the structure, you have the easy, to explain it and everything. But to explain it to somebody that you don't know how many games they play and everything, it's really important to keep their attention. It's like some events, some board game, I don't know, playing during the weekend or something like that. And there, you need to think about it. Look at the guys, if they are listening or not, if it's, always ask questions if they get it or nothing before continuing. If you continue to explain everything and do not look what they are doing, if they are listening or anything, you will have the full table of really confused people next to you, especially if it's like family with children or something. So always you look, how they react to the game. Always try to ask questions if they get it, if they, need to a little bit more to know about it, or continue like that. Compared to, of course, friends that basically, as I said, what to do. Testing prototypes, you already heard that. Basically, that when you are testing the prototypes, it's about everybody. I think you can only read your thermal bottle in that. But yeah, the thing, of course, with testing prototypes, it depends what kind of prototype is and what you are testing. We, for example, in CG, we are using different versions of testing to see exactly what the game is about, how they will react to the different people and so on. Because we have the testing groups that basically test the game. There are the people like designers or kind of people that are really into the development or testing of the games. It's easy to explain them, they will get it, the changes, everything. When you are explaining to something like people outside, like normal public, it's always hard to see the expectation or something like that in that. You need to more. You will learn there that basically, for example, the game is for different audience. Or for example, that it's too complicated and you need to move back. It's always easier, of course, to during the testing with the people, for example, here than the public. The other thing, of course, is different if you are explaining it to testing like online platforms. It's very great to use, for example, online platforms to test the game a lot, and you need to be possible to explain the game easily, even if you are explaining online. You cannot, on those online platforms, you cannot show the component or easily to show everything what's going on. There you need to be prepared to talk differently, like you are explaining. I know that sounds a little bit strange, but like you are explaining to blind people the game. Explain the component that you have there on the board and everything. If you ever played, for example, Board Game Arena, and then you said, okay, it's there. They will not get it. Where? You need to show them, exactly. So basically, it's on the right corner. You need to get used to it, to explain step by step, as if they don't see it exactly. That's really different, of course, approach to different testing. Also, the testing on online, it can be differently approached by something like online rulebook that they can read, but again, it needs to be different than normal rulebook. You need to be completely focused on the platform itself. We do it differently, and if you read, for example, the rulebook for online platform, it's completely different than the rulebook for testing on the table. It needs to be more focused on how it functions, less on the setup or less on the component side, but on the functions of the platform itself. And it's really hard to look at it. I would recommend, for example, if you are programmers or something, or using ScreenTop for testing or other platform like that, try to look through other games that have rule books accordingly to it. I'm just remembering where to exactly, for example. But there are lots of people that are using it and using it for open testing, that they need to show how the platform works together with the game. Okay. Yeah. I hope that something is at least clear about it. But the definition about explain the game for events. What I mean by events, there are some shows, PLSN and so on, that is completely different to explaining to strangers, to friends and everything like that. On those events, most people have attention span like, flying birds somewhere, because they need to go to different stands, to listen to different rules, look for games, and basically running away on spiel, getting as many games as possible, the new ones. So they don't have exactly time for playing the whole game or waiting hour for explanation of the whole game. And here it's easy also to see how intuitive, how thematic the game itself is when you are explaining it there. We use, for example, in SNPL, we use quick pitch tables that are basically like standees that with the game that you just quick pitch the table. It's similar something like that you are showing the game to publisher. That you just say about what's the game about, the team, the basics, but not explain it again. And it's completely different, and you will see how the game itself is interesting enough for people. It's always nice also to try this explanation to people during testing, for example, before explaining the whole game, to see if it's, the thematic of the game and the mechanics are interesting enough for those. Because, yeah, of course, if you say something about Dungeons & Dragons or something like that, they will probably lose interest because it's so normal theme, so expected that they are not, that interesting that if you say something more about it, what's going on. The other thing, of course, with the expansion of the events is a little bit like we are using a drip feed method. If you ever heard about it, it's like explanation of the game when you go through the game. Basically, something like that you will start the explanation of the game through just the, what's the theme about, what's going, what you should achieve or something, and then you are and the round, and then you are start explaining action as people play. They will not know the whole game, but they will be learning through every step something more about the game. So basically, for example, with Carcassonne, you will not explain what the churches do, what the cities do, or something like that, but accordingly to the tiles what they are placing and so on. And it will take few turns basically to explain the basics of the game, and then you continue with playing with them and explain a little bit more about it. If you know what I kind of mean by that, it's something similar that you can find, for example, in learn to play guides in some games. And I would recommend to try it with your game also, to learn how easily graphs it is by this. How many rules basically there are that do not need to be there or are more of a, how to say, not useful rules during this explanation, but needs to be only a few times used in the game, or maybe even not used in some gameplay or something like that. You will easily figure out by preparing yourself, like with the drip feed method, how many of it doesn't need to be here in it. If you, it's very good, with this, because then you can easily see what's the problem with it. About showing the game to publisher, because it's my job, of course, to talk with designers and try to find a way how easily to go through so many prototypes that basically similar to like Killing Hydra. You basically just send one email, one answer, and two new ones will come back. It's when showing the game to publisher, of course, it's different to some publishers, of course, to what they wanted to see. But I would recommend to use a little bit like introduction, and as we talk about, as you saw yesterday in the evening, a little bit like to make them why they need to game. But please try to avoid something like it's something completely new, it's something that you didn't see, or it's awesome, or something like that. They don't care about it, the publishers. They care about the game itself, if it's interesting or not the words around. I know that you need to make them see the game, make them interested in it, but also they don't have exactly time and to read of it. And mostly those kind of, awesome email, and everybody will love it, are most of the cases is chest or something like that with another piece of, that with new movement or something like that. And it's always problematic to see this. The thing, of course, is with this explanation, you will need to have a little bit like quick page to see on the cell sheet a little bit, and then you will need to have a little bit like how to say, longer part that you will not use the whole rules, but only parts of it of interest. When you are sending, for example, when I'm going through the email, I would like to not know exactly the whole rules because don't have time to read 30 pages of a rule book, but to know exactly, a little bit about the mechanic, a little bit about what needs to be about the game, what's this interesting about, and what the goal of core team. But together it can be simplified to, I don't know, maybe to 2.5 to 5 minutes of explanation on this person. What I would recommend is not only writing this, little bit like small explanation for a few paragraphs, but also trying to explain it through video. Something like maximum 5 minutes video. It's the easiest way for publisher to see the game, because it will be even faster than read through it and imagine it. And if you can figure out if the game itself, the main thing about the game that is interesting, can be fit to 2.5, maximum 5-minute video, you can easily see if the game is enough interesting, enough things in it to make the publisher, wanted to publish it. If it's doesn't fit there, or you don't know how to do it, it can be a little bit problematic with the rules of the game. Believe me, it's most of the time, if it's I don't know, if they cannot fit the game to 5 minutes, I don't mean the rules itself, the whole rules, but basics of the game, it's too much glued together mechanism or something like that, that basically doesn't need to be there most of the time. Okay, this, of course, if you, for example, do the video, then, and you meet the publisher, for example, it's like some meeting on 30 minutes or something like that, again, it's about explaining the basics of the game, not the whole rules. You will not have time for that, and basically, they don't have time, if they do not test it, play it, they don't have time for that. I would recommend to try with them, for example, as I said, the drift method, to explain the game through some basic movements of the gameplay and what you will do. It's also nice, that they will see what's possible in the game and everything, and what's going on. Or other version is, of course, the drift method is work really fine with the explanation, and the other version is, of course, little simplify, only the core, the thematic of the game and everything like that, explaining, for example, that you are the thematic of the actions and so on. So it will be smaller package without those little bit small things. How to say, for example, that if you have few points more, you will do something or something like that, the really core of it. And you can easily, by simplifying like this, also again, for the publisher, you can see that some things do not need to be there. Some specific rules that will not happen most of the time, or something that will happen at the end of the game, only that you will not use in the beginning of the game. By simplifying like this, you can see that the game itself has something more that needs to be. It's not always, of course, true, but most of the time it is about this also. Okay, I wanted to put there also a little bit things about video app, or for example, learn how to play the game. But as I'm not content creator, I will not talk about video, because lots of people, for example, here would tell me that I'm talking nonsense. And also the app or learn to play guide is most of the times it's for the published game already, because you will not, if you are creating the game, you will not need it immediately. But it's also a nice feature to be able to explain the whole game through some app or something. I would recommend to look through different types of explanation, as I said, find a game that will be explained easily through app, or easily with the repeat method, the learn how to play, to see the possibilities about the explanation itself, and to see how it's easy, to go through different roles with the explanation. What I would like to also talk about this is how it can help you with those different possibilities, how to explain the rules, how it can help you with the design itself of the game. As I said, it's easy if it's too complicated. You can easily see by writing the rule book, explaining it normally, or for example, especially when you're trying to minimize the rules to few minutes to show the basic of the game, what doesn't need to be there. You can easily cut things outside the game by that. Simplify in it. The other thing, of course, is that if you, for example, I would recommend, as we talked before, to write a rule book, kind of simplify a rule book, something like reference sheet rule book, in the beginning of the design. I mean, like in the beginning of design, I mean like after a few iterations that you basically it's stable and you would like to test it outside your normal group with other people and so on. In that moment, it's nice to have the simplified rules to write, just to remember what's going on, just to remember even what to say and not forget it. Because if you are used to explain the rules of the prototype only to people around you, you will easily forget something when you are explaining it to strangers. Easily forget some specific rule, easily forget some things around it that will need to be told. Especially if it's another version of the game, for example. Also, this kind of rulebook can be changed to something like, I would call it changelog. And that's the perfect thing to use. Like, easily have the rules first, and then like another parts that are basically what's changing in the game, that easily can be dragged back where the game begins and what it happens to it then. Easily also tracking, okay, this version was functional, but there was some problem, but this is completely different things later on with the game, and it's not functional, so you can easily get back to it also and start a little bit different direction if you want with the prototype. It's also it's also great if you, for example, testing with different groups the game, and you were testing with somebody like a few weeks ago, and there was few changes there, and you cannot normally remember what they tested, and explain everything, the whole rules of the game. It's like boring to them because they know lots of the game, lots of the part of games, and will kind of not listen to you during it, and that they will miss the changes. But if you know during the through the changelog what missing there, what they heard last time, it's easier to explain them only those things. To look, for example, what they miss, what they do, and also it's easier if they play the game before the testing, the older version, and they have some idea about how it functions, how they like it, and now you can see what changes during it will be what's in the game, and how they like it now, or what they're talking. You can easily also see that there was some problems that was before even that you didn't take care of it, or for example that sometimes some things need to be still like for example get back inside. That was a big problem. The changelog I would really recommend to do it, and it's also helpful when you are working with some publisher later on the development on producing the game. That will help with the process. Okay. Other things, of course, that you will know, through the rules explanation, you will learn through different rules. You will learn different things. If you are, for example, explaining it during some event, you will learn how to do it quickly, how to do it with people that do not pay attention, and that means also how intuitive the game is. You will easily, during this type of explanation, you will easily find unintuitive rules, because they will be asking a lot of questions about it. It's important when you are, that's what I am telling, it's important to listen what they are asking most during the explanation of the rules to people, and what are hard to understand. I know that it's for lots of people it's normal things that they already know, but still I would like to remind it, because the rules, explaining the rules and see what the people react to it is really important to find the problems even before playtesting. It's really easy to find, for example, as I said, intuitive rules, not interesting theme or not interesting mechanism, and also easier to see that the game itself can be, for example, simplified, as I said before, but also, how to say it, a little bit like, I'm out of words right now, sorry. Yeah. Don't worry, I will remember in a minute. Yeah. Maybe, yeah. Okay. I will continue a little bit about it, about the information through the rules that you will get. One thing was there also that basically when you are explaining the rules and they will listen to the rules, they will create some expectation of the game itself. What they should do during the game, what there is interesting for them, and so on. And then when they are playing it, they can discover that it's something else, that the game is about something else. For example, it's the typical typical example for me was last time was, for example, Inferno, the new game that was published. That during the rules, you explain, you listen to it and think, okay, it's worker placement, I need as many workers as possible doing that and that. But for this game, it was a little bit like some different expectation that the game it's about. That it's about race, doing it fast as possible, everything and so on, and not taking the workers. And during the explanation of the rules, it's easy to forget about it and do a little bit like missed expectation to the players. So it's also easy to see if you are targeting the right people, explain the rules properly to understand the game. Because if you do not do like this, and it's like the game plays differently to be good, you will miss lots of people that will not enjoy the game later on if it's published. Most of the people today, these days play the game only once, 3 times or something like that, not more. And if it's hard to get the game during the rules, during the explanation, you will lose them before even the game started. And you will lose them after first or second game. It's the similar thing, for example, with lots of games, even our game Kutná Hora. You need to play it a few times before understanding it, and the rulebook will not tell you exactly what's the problem, that you are playing it wrongly. And it's a really big problem to create the expectation for the game itself during the rulebook, or explanation of the rules during the testing. Yeah. The other thing, of course, is that you can see easily how long the explanation of the rules are compared to how long the game is. If it's too long, the explanation, compared to play time, there's some problem. Some big problem. It's the same thing with setup of the game. If you are setting game hour and playing it 30 minutes, I think that you need to redesign it. And things with the rules also. If you are explaining the game 30 minutes and it plays 15 minutes, you will not find, exactly, or 10 minutes. Thank you for the advice, what to say. So, other thing, of course, that can be done, that you can get from those, explanation and listening to people what they are asking, is the kind of frequently asked questions or asking the right questions. You can find that there is problem with the rules, with the game itself. If the most people during, for example, testing, asking the same question about the rule, of course, it can be by you, because you cannot explain the game, but most of the time it is about the rule itself that's problematic. And believe me, it's not enough to write at the end of the rulebook, if you publish the game, FAQ, this function this way. It will not function well.